Hello, welcome to Secure the Continent, News Central Television. This is the program where we bring you up to date with all the security happenings on the African continent. We begin with a piece of breaking news. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II passed away this afternoon at Balmoral Castle in Scotland. She died at the age of 96. Now we begin the program with the security headlines across the African continent. ISWAP opens fire on Boko Haram insurgents fleeing Nigerian army attack. Kaduna trained hostage negotiator arrested in Cairo, Egypt. 6 civilians killed as Cameroon separatists opened fire on boss. Scores of civilians killed in South Sudan political clashes. Now, today on Secure the Continent, our focus is on Somalia, as the country is presently witnessing the resurgence of Al-Shabaab. The Al-Shabaab extremist group has been waging an insurgency against Somalia's central government for decades, and their ultimate goal is believed to make the region an Islamic caliphate governed by their own hyper-strict interpretations of Sharia law. We have more details for you in this report.
Al-Shabaab, an affiliate of Al-Qaeda, is one of the world's deadliest terrorist organizations. The group was the militant wing of the Somali Council of Islamic Courts that took over most of southern Somalia in the second half of 2006. For decades, the group has rained violence down on Somalia. But beyond Somalia, all Al-Shabaab's activities also threaten the whole of Africa's security and stability. At one point, the group launched several attacks in Kenya before the Kenyan military pushed it back to Somalia. Al-Shabaab exerts control over wide parts of southern and central Somalia, but recent incursions suggest it is advancing towards Somalia's capital city of Mogadishu. In August, Al-Shabaab forces attacked a hotel, over 100 people inside. During the 30-hour ordeal, 20 people lost their lives. It was the first attack by Al-Shabaab since the emergence of Hassan Sheikh Mohamud as president for the second time. This attack has led many security experts and analysts to ask if we are witnessing a resurgence of the deadly group. Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for many bombings, including various types of suicide attacks in Mogadishu and in central and northern Somalia. These typically targeted Somali government officials, AMISOM, and perceived allies of the FGS. Since 2013, Al-Shabaab has launched high-profile operations in neighboring countries, most notably the September 2013 Westgate Mall attack in Nairobi, the May 2014 attack against restaurant in Westerners, and the April 2015 massacre of university students in Garissa, Kenya. The Westgate attack killed 67 Kenyan and non-Kenyan nationals, and a siege continued at the mall for several days. The Garissa attack killed some 150 mainly Christian students. Since 2011, however, pressure from AMISOM and Ethiopian forces has largely degraded Al-Shabaab's control, especially in Mogadishu, but also in other key regions of the country, and conflict among senior leaders has exacerbated fractures within the group. In 2013, Al-Shabaab rivals committed in a major purge of opponents of now-deceased group leader Abdi al-Mohammed. But recent attacks, as well as appointment of a former high-ranking Al-Shabaab official as the religious affairs minister, have seen mixed reactions in the country. Al-Shabaab has proven just how dangerous it is. President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud has promised to make an ending to the terrorist organization his top priority. Just how will he do this?
Now I have joining me on the program today, Sabul's Emil Kovacs is a risk analyst with Risk Solution, and he joins us from the Senegalese capital, Dakar. I also have Mustafa Haji Abdinur, a political analyst and security expert. He joins us from the Somali capital, Mogadishu. And I also have joining me on the panel, Mohameddeq Ali Abdi, a security expert and the author of the book, Why Somalia Does Not Get the Right Direction. He joins us live from Hamburg in Germany. A warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining me on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
Now I'd like to start off with Mustafa. Now, Mustafa, who are Al-Shabaab and what are the origins of this group?
Well, I think it takes a bit long to say the story of Al-Shabaab. What we know about the beginning of Al-Shabaab is the rise of the Islamic courts, who have again, fought in Mogadishu with the Ethiopian forces. And that's how actually Al-Shabaab came about, defeated in the fight against the Ethiopian forces in 2016 and 2027. So actually, Al-Shabaab have been fighting with the AU peacekeeping forces operating in Somalia, and they have used all tactics guerrilla warfare against the Somali government forces. They control most parts of the territories in the country. They have besieged whole regions. Even though the government now controls, most of the major towns, again, Al-Shabaab controls a large swath of territories in the country. And they have managed to cut off the movement between those major towns where the government controls. So they are still intact. They carry out operations despite the presence of the African Union peacekeeping forces who back the Somali National Army, and out of operations they have carrying out some major attacks in the different parts of the country.
Okay, thank you, Mustafa. I'd like to bring in Mohameddeq. Now, Mohameddeq, what are the objectives of Al-Shabaab? What are they fighting for? This insurgency has been going on for over a decade. What do they really want?
Actually, the objective of Al-Shabaab is they want to implement entire Somalia Sharia law. But the question is, we need to ask ourselves, Somali people is a Muslim country, which the practice is Muslim and other people are Sunni. But what I may understand is like the way the Somali government are addressing to defeat Al-Shabaab, it's absolutely, it's inappropriate. And because actually Al-Shabaab, fighting Al-Shabaab, it's not, coming to the media and you said we are going to end Al-Shabaab. It's not like that way. Al-Shabaab needed like strategically how you are going to defeat this group and this extremist people. And by the way, Al-Shabaab has a capacity which they tell the young people ideology. If the young people is fighting ideology, you cannot win, but you can win by using brainwashing, by telling that what they are doing, it's not related to the Islamic issue. But if you try to use a weapon, I believe it will take longer to defeat Al-Shabaab what they believe, to implement the entire Somalia Sharia law, what they call it.
Thank you very much, Mohameddeq. Mohameddeq believes that this military engagement with Al-Shabaab should be, we need to look at other ways to deal with it, because you practically can't defeat them militarily. You have the joint force of the Kenyans, Ugandans, ATMIS, African Union mission in Somalia, and they've not been able to defeat Al-Shabaab in a decade. So my question is, where is Al-Shabaab based, and does Al-Shabaab have territorial control, or is it fluid? And looking at today's Al-Shabaab, does he have the capacity to carry out attacks outside the territorial borders of Somalia?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, regardless of what we analyze and how we are looking at Al-Shabaab is the one most reactive and one most capable terrorist group right now in Africa. And we can see how capable he is at the recent attacks in Mogadishu, in the Somali capital. And also, we see before that in 2013, 15 in Kenya. And they have a lot of capabilities and also lots of operatives in cross-border, also in Kenya, in Ethiopia, and in Somalia. And they have a lot of capabilities to inflict attacks and damage, and also with the recent food aid convoy, which they attacked and killed the people. So they are very, very, still very dangerous and very capable to inflict damage in Somalia and in the region.
Now, staying with you, Zabols, you did mention last Friday's attack that killed at least 18 civilians and destroyed trucks filled with relief food in Somalia. The attack came just a few days after the terrorists launched a bloody attack on a hotel in Mogadishu that left 21 dead. It's indeed been a bloody past month in Somalia. What's responsible for this latest uptick in violence?
Yeah, it's seizing the moment. Also, we had now COVID, which was in the past years, so it was quite, taking the forefront in the, how to say, in the news, also in the media and on the general life. And now that, how to say, we have now an ongoing conflict in Europe, what we have with Russia, and also that we saw recently in other parts in Africa, for example, the French retreat from Mali. And also we had, the conflict in the Tigray in Ethiopia, and also we have now the election that they had in Kenya. So I think all these elements coming together, I think now they want to exploit to the maximum, because now also the international community or Amisom forces or ATMIS forces or UN, they are quite limited. And as you said, that part of for a decade, it basically didn't make any change whatsoever. But I think also now Al-Shabaab is starting to reach their limits, because they only have one tool to their disposal to reinforce their control, which is fear. And sooner or later, the local population, the Somalis, they just want to live. They just want to carry on with their day-to-day lives. So either they live in a government-controlled territory or in Al-Shabaab, they just want to have, a peaceful day and to make it through. So now it's very interesting to see, because also, Al-Shabaab, it needs, it has to, how to say, basically run out of their, options. And also we have to see also with the federal government of Somalia, how they will, with the new administration, the new, people in place, how they will deal with it, and how they will address it. So it will be a ramp up of military actions, or they will try to negotiate. So it's for this moment, it's clearly hard to say. And also for Al-Shabaab, they try to do humanitarian work, also to distribute food, solar panels, and also to try to still win the confidence of the local population. Yeah, hearts and minds, yeah, exactly. But they are running out. And also militarily to keep filling up the ranks with the new recruits. It poses a challenge, because people they just want to, how to say, have other options, and they want to make a living. And yeah.
Thank you, Zabogs. Now, Mustafa, Somalia has a new president, and when Somalia's new president, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, took office in May, it declared a top priority was bringing an end to the country's 15-year Islamist insurgency. How much of a difference has he made, and does he have a clear strategy on how to defeat Al-Shabaab, or is it just the same promises that politicians make all the time? You're on the ground in Mogadishu, and can you tell us more about what has happened since he took office?
I mean, promises are easier said than done. And it's not only Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, but even the previous president, the former president, also promised that he wants to defeat Al-Shabaab. That's an ambition all the politicians have. And when they come to, power, they have to start with Al-Shabaab, because they know that Al-Shabaab is a problem, a security problem. and for them it's a priority. The government of Hassan Sheikh, he has promised that he is going to do something about Al-Shabaab, and this is a priority for his government. But the issue about what he can do about Al-Shabaab and how he can defeat Al-Shabaab is, I think, a different issue completely. And it's not something that's easy I mean, the president can do, even though his ambition is to do so. So, of course,
why do you say it's not easy, Mustafa? What are the obstacles?
Because this is not like a conventional war. It's not like the government is fighting an army that is a conventional. It's a guerrilla-style warfare, and Al-Shabaab is scattered. So they carry out ambush attacks. Even if the government now wants to attack towns, there are no, unities of Al-Shabaab that they can liberate from towns. So that itself makes it difficult. For the last couple of months, I think they have been engaging some ad hoc operations in some of the regions. And these operations, when the government secure, like, for example, a few villages, what they do again is that they just pull out of those villages because they are already stretched and they don't have the capability, to keep holding force all around those locations. And it's easier for Al-Shabaab to come back to those locations. So it has been, this is the case for some time now. And from looking, into what's in the ground and even the increased attacks of Al-Shabaab and how the capability of the army is now of handling this issue, it's not something that's going to be easy for the government. Of course, they can start something to do about the war on Al-Shabaab, like now engaging some of the clans in some of the regions, like mobilizing clan militiamen to help the Somali government forces fight Al-Shabaab. This is something that has been happening for the last couple of weeks in some of the regions. To be frank, I cannot say this is like, Al-Shabaab making a resurgence. It's like these attacks have been there. The case for the last attacks they have carried out, of course, some of these attacks looked to be different because of the nature of the attack itself, like the one in Mogadishu, which has taken a longer time than it used to take for the security forces to end the siege. But apart from that, I don't think that there are something, new in terms of these attacks that Al-Shabaab is engaging, and the operations that Somali government is also, engaging, even though they are not big operations. They are small scale in terms of what level of impact they can have on the areas they carry out. But again, of course, there's something happening on the ground.
Thank you, Mustafa. Now, Mohameddeq, we cannot have this conversation about Al-Shabaab without talking about the recent appointment of Al-Shabaab's former deputy leader and spokesman, Mukhtar Robo, who was named as religious affairs minister. While some were horrified by the move, they believe that you now have an insider inside the government. You have an Al-Shabaab insider inside the government. Many Somalis have also greeted this move with enthusiasm, saying it's a brilliant counter-insurgency move. By the way, this man used to be on the US list of the most wanted terrorists with a $5 million bounty on his head. You are the author of the book, Why Somalia Doesn't Get It Right. Do you think Somalia got this appointment right? What do you make of this?
The position Mukhtar Robo, actually Mukhtar Robo, he's a citizen Somali, and he has a right to take this position. But we have to make it two separate. The first separate is he can have ability to use the government of Somalia as a tool to defeat Al-Shabaab, or is he a citizen that he is eligible citizen Somali? He got this position, but my argument is like he has a right as a citizen. He can take this position, Minister of Religious, but in my opinion, I don't think he have ability or he have influence that the government of Somalia can use that tools that Al-Shabaab to defeat. It was a time
Do
when
you think
Muqtar,
perhaps it can be the face of the government in negotiating with Al-Shabaab if the government explores that way? You know, being a former insider, will they be able to trust him when it comes to negotiating a political solution to this conflict?
my opinion, I don't think so, because it was a time when the first time Muqtar Robo came to the government of Somalia. At that time, if they take a chance and they have to give him a position, like, or they have to care the way they care now, maybe he can invite so many people. But at the moment, what I saw, he did not have much influence to the extremist Al-Shabaab. What I may saw, or what I may follow up, but in my perspective, but actually where he's from, Muqtar Rebo in southwest of Somalia, maybe he can influence the young people to stop for the extremists and something like that. But in terms of influencing or using the government of Somalia as tools to defeat Al-Shabaab, I think that is big exaggeration that the government of Somalia is doing that.
Thank you, Mohameddeq. Now, Sir Bolks, you're security experts, and a lot of people have been wondering, I'm sure you get this question all the time, how has Al-Shabaab remained capable of carrying out massive attacks in Somalia and surrounding countries despite a long-running African Union offensive against the Islamic terrorist groups, and also drone strikes by the United States of America? Why is and how is Al-Shabaab still a formidable force to reckon with?
It's effectiveness. So they are very mobile. They are moving on the field in small units, which is really hard to detect even by drones. So they are very capable and very mobile. Mobility, which is gives them the advantage, and also they use the terrain, the field, for their advantage, and that gives them this deadly ability to strike and also to conduct really big damages also inside, the green in Mogadishu, attacking government installation, or even where Somali MPs, like we saw with the Hyatt Hotel, which took very long, as my predecessor said, for the security forces to clear and to end the siege. So yes, this is the advantage. And then they have also the capability and the motivation. And when you have motivation and then also you have the ability and the effectiveness, then it comes together by being so deadly force in Somalia.
Now, are they only attacking in Somalia territory? Because I do believe that there's also semi-autonomous provinces of Somaliland and Puntland. Does Al-Shabaab strike in those places?
Yes, there was some registered attacks, and that also which was also credited to Al-Shabaab. And then we know also that in Puntland, they have a region where they have a conflict between a small group of Islamic State, which they want to make a foothold in the north of Somalia, and they are engaged against this group. And yes, in Somaliland, we did not have that much because it's also, I think, it's difference between the clans and the government system, how it's put up, and it's not that like we saw in Puntland or in the middle Shabelle or in Galgudu or in other regions in Somalia, and then especially down in the south, where attacks just keep recurrent and day by day. But it cannot be ruled out because they still have the capability to infiltrate, to move, to organize, to move weapons. And also we have the Somali coast. Somalia, we know it has a large coast. And we know, everybody knows that they are moving large team, infiltrates, weapons, explosive by small boats, skiffs. and they go to places, and they infiltrate, and they have a lot of capability to do damage.
Okay, thank
all
you.
over Somalia.
Thank you, Zapolks. I'd like to bring in Mustafa. Now, when you talk about a resurgent terrorist group, one of the things that keeps driving them is finances and human resources. According to United Nations experts, Al-Shabaab raised more than $21 million in 2020. It spent more than that on fighters, weapons, and intelligence. So the question is, what drives its recruitment and where does it get its funding from?
There are so many reports and information about how Al-Shabaab recruit and how they get money. Of course, some of these reports indicate that they just target people in the areas they control. But they also manage, to take to levy tax on other areas, not only regions and areas they control, but they also manage to collect tax money from other areas, including Mogadishu, according to some reports. So how they generate, that amount of money they just have the mobility.
Hello, Mustafa, are you there? Okay, I think we're having some technical problems with Mustafa's connection. I'd just like to direct that question to Mohameddeq. Can you pick up from where Mustafa left off? How does Al-Shabaab fund its operations?
Where Al-Shabaab has collected the money, that's your question. I think so.
Yes. How does he fund its operations and what drives its recruitment?
Al-Shabaab has got collected for taxes money different ways, in such as of the people who have a big business in Somalia. They pay a ransom which is eligible. Each and everyone who has a big business must pay in ransom. If he's not paying, then Al-Shabaab will attack his business, and the government of Somalia cannot protect this business. That's one option. And the second option is like so many people in Somalia who is going, even some of people who are in Mogadishu, where the Somali government is controlling, some of them are sending Al-Shabaab telephone, and they said, you have to pay that money for the ransom. If you do not pay, then we will kill you at any time. So the person, he have to pay. What I allow me to tell you a little bit story. During my book, I met one of parliament in Somalia, and he said to me he went in his relative where they live in not so far from Somalia, not far from the capital of Somalia, where he was stayed one night. So the night came, the night where his house came Al-Shabaab, and Al-Shabaab was said to him, we are not going to kill you, but you have to pay a ransom, which is like a $2,000 USA. And he said, when you go back to Mogadishu and you sit at the parliament building, someone will come to you, and then you have to give him that person the money. If you do not give him the money, so we can kill you at any time. We can put you, pump your car or everyone.
So it's a very serious security situation there, but we do have to go on a break. When we come back from this break, we'll be looking at the impact and the humanitarian situation in Somalia of all this Al-Shabaab attacks over the years and probable solutions to ending this insurgency in Somalia. You're watching Secure the Continent on News Central Television. We'll go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue our conversation. You're welcome back to Secure the Continent. Thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining us, this is Secure the Continent, and we've been discussing the insurgency in Somalia as Al-Shabaab continues to break the peace and stability in that country. I still have with me Emil, Kovacs, and Mohameddeq Abdi. Now, Emil, what has been the regional impact of Al-Shabaab attacks on the economy and the humanitarian situation in Somalia and in the Horn of Africa region? And have they been able to carry out attacks outside Somalia's borders? I do recall that there was an attack or incursion into Ethiopian territory, 150 kilometers into Ethiopian territory last week. Was it a fluke or do they have that capability?
Yes, they have. And now that with the conflict ongoing with the Tigray region in Ethiopia and also the change of focus of the government in Addis Ababa, they, exploited this gap and this opportunity. And they simply also wanted to flex their muscles to show that, yes, indeed, we have big capabilities, and also we can reach very, very deep inside the countries. As it was similar done before in Kenya, where we saw that they made very high-profile attacks. They clearly want to demonstrate their capabilities, and it should be taken very seriously because still they have. Also, there was very, very clear information regarding when the Kenya election was ongoing just the month before, that they wanted to conflict damage and attack in Nairobi during the elections to disrupt the electoral process. And they clearly have. And they also can destabilize the region and also can destabilize other countries. And also they totally ruined, the economy and also the food crisis that is ongoing in Somalia, because aid and food and supplies, they cannot reach the needy. And that is a very, very serious concern. And it shows that they are relentless on it and they will not give up on it.
Quite a serious situation there. Now, Mohameddeq, on the 1st of April, the African Union mission in Somalia, AMISOM, transformed to the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, ATMIS. How significant is this change and what impact will it have in the war against Al-Shabaab?
They are doing so many amazing job in Somalia, but actually what I may say what is the best ATMIS can do is Somalia people is to give ability to train well, to performance well, but actually we have to highlight that and we have to understand that ATMIS cannot do anything unless Somali politicians, they have to sit together and they have to highlight it, architecture plan, how they are going to retake their country when ATMIS left the country. But actually, ATMIS, it's only peace restored, but ATMIS cannot do unless Somali politicians wake up their country. But actually, ATMIS is trying to do so many things, but what I may not see clearly, Somali politicians, they are not serious about defeating Al-Shabaab. They are not serious about the security issue. They are not serious about the humanitarian Somalia. They are not serious. They are not standing up their country and their people. But actually,
why do you say they're not serious? Why do you say this?
Because the reason I said this is Hassan Sheikh Mohamud took office in May 15 till now. Federal member of Somalia and the central government, they are fighting each other with nonsense. They are fighting their own interests. They have to put back their interests. They have to put interest to the national interest. They have to see how we are going to defeat this extremist, how our children can have a better life, how we are going to have a secure and peace life. For instance, if I give it to one example, the capital of Mogadishu, where the central government is there, it's a 16 district in Mogadishu. If you look at some district at the night, Al-Shabaab is controlling. Even the district commissioner is living at the district. He left it. But the government of Somalia, if they say we are controlling the capital of Mogadishu and the rest at the night, some districts are controlling by Al-Shabaab and they are fighting nonsense interests. I think it's not realistic. The politicians of Somalia, they are not serious. And I think, my opinion, AMISOM will not leave the country if Somalia politicians are wake up and to do the work clearly.
Thank you very much, Mohameddeq. Now, Sir Boggs, do you agree with Mohameddeq that, you need to fix the politics before you can take care of the security situation? Because it appears that there are lots of factions, there are politicians with personal interests in all of this before we can have peace in Somalia. Or the ATMIS, the African Union Transmission Mission in Somalia, does not take orders from the central government in Mogadishu. Do you need that, or can they just go ahead and fulfill their mandate without the Somali politicians putting their house in order?
No, definitely not. And that the ATMIS, it was a rebranding of the AMISOM because they had a history and also conflict, and also it was not very popular between the local population, and they had certain animosities in towards the AMISOM mission, so they made a rebranding. In the politics, yes, indeed, I do concur with my colleague that it's very difficult. And also we had with the political deadlock that it was before the election, and after that we saw that the election went through and there was no conflict between the clans or the political elites. And now for the new president, it's again recently he made some very controversial nominations, also in the Benadi region, and again it just fuels the tension and the distrust between them, and it's basically impossible for anyone to achieve anything if they do not have the political consensus. And also that we must note that the patience and also the options for foreign diplomatic missions or UN missions is wearing thin, because they also have now a quite big obstacle regarding the funding, because a lot of funding were directed to, for example, Ukraine, where the conflict is, and it limits their actions. And then again, it fuels a very delicate situation. So I think, yes, they need to have political stability to achieve a little bit of advancement or success on the field, even with AMISOM or with the FGS to consolidate their foothold in as the new government.
Now, Sir Boggs, before I go to Mohameddeq, still talking ATMIS. The ATMIS Transitional Force has been given less than 2 years to hand over security responsibilities to Somalia's National Army and withdraw from the country. How can they avoid the failures of AMISOM? And do you think the SNA will be able to handle the security of Somalia in 2 years' time?
No, they will be not. And if it will be taken very, very hastily, or any other external interference or even political destabilization, it will lead, that we saw in Afghanistan, the similar situation, that again it will be given the full white card for Al-Shabaab to retake large swaths of lands, and also even the capital, which is, for the moment being, it's not feasible for them. But if there will be a hasty retreat and they will be not handled with great delicacy and care, we can have the similar situation that we witnessed in Afghanistan with the Taliban.
Thank you, Sir Boggs. Now, Mohameddeq, your neighbors, Kenya, now have a new president that will be sworn in on Tuesday in the person of William Ruto. The peace and safety of Kenya was the reason why the Kenyan Defense Forces did make an incursion into Somalia. It's been a decade after the first boots marched in. How is that going? And have there been any talks of the Kenyan Defense Forces leaving Somali territory anytime soon?
As you already said, Kenya will have a new president, but my opinion is dependent on how Nairobi and Mogadishu the relationship will be, because actually, as we already know, the previous president and the previous Somali president Farmajo was not that good, and so if the Mogadishu and Nairobi was not so good, but each and every one play his own interest. But if Mogadishu and Nairobi come together and see how in which opportunity Al-Shabaab can defeat, in which strategy they can highlight it, the Kenyan troops who in Kismayo, I think if Mogadishu and Nairobi, they have to have a plan, and then maybe they can move the rest Chupa where the Al-Shabaab remains are there. But come to my argument, but Kenya troops did not move unless Somali government have a clear strategic mission how Somali government are willing to defeat Al-Shabaab. But I may assume the current government of Somalia did not have a clear strategic how they are going to defeat Al-Shabaab. But what I may realize it, or what I have follow up in since the president of Hassan Sheikh Mohamud May 15 till today, what I was follow up how the government is monitoring, how the government is moving. But if you saw what the progress the government is done, it's like you can say it's like far from what they are going to do. But if they trying to wake up and to come up a clear mission, then I think they can defeat. And you have to keep your mind, Hassan Sheikh, it's not only person, he can have a strategic plan to defeat Al-Shabaab. But if the state members of Somalia have conflict with him, and each and every state member, he saw his own interest. For instance, in Jubaland, he extension 1 year. So, and Mogadishu, Hassan Sheikh, still he did not recognize it, or he did not say anything if the extension he did it. And so many clients from Jubaland are against the extension. So how the operation Al-Shabaab are going if there is a conflict between the clans are living in Jubaland. For instance, in southwest in southwest Somalia, is like that. The president remaining a few months, and he is planning to extension the term, and the government of Somalia maybe they will have a conflict. So
definitely, Somalia needs to fix its politics. Sorry to jump in there. We do just before we wrap things up. I'll come back to you, Mohameddeq. So, folks, we've seen external influence in Somalia. It's not just the Kenyans. We've also had United States air strikes that were ramped up during the Trump administration, but the Biden administration has reduced those airstrikes. Were they effective in any way in dealing with Al-Shabaab? And could negotiations with Al-Shabaab be a possible path to peace? What would you recommend?
Definitely, it was to have an option or to try is better to have none. So they wanted to try a different approach than we saw for quite a long time, and it was not successful. In my opinion, to reach some sort of stability, it sooner or later, maybe it will be not soon, it will be later, but they have to engage into negotiation. And start to come to table and start discussing how they're going to fit, because if not, it is going to be a never-ending circle, and it's clearly that Al-Shabaab will not give up its purpose to install a Sharia-based state in Somalia, and also they will not have any credibility whatsoever or give any credit for the FGS for the moment, for the central government. So clearly, now that we discussed before the nomination of a former member, which was also portrayed in the most wanted list, I think it's not optimal, but it's a step forward. It's a thinking outside of the box. It was also before, in the first mandate from Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, trying to individually deflect or desert Al-Shabaab fighters, which again did not function, but at least there was a try. So this is a new approach, and I think it's better to try and to have steps forward taken than backwards. So I think sooner or later, both sides, and also together, because with the regional states, because Kenya also has an interest, Ethiopia has an interest to have stability in Somalia, so they need to support Somalia and the central government to engage into negotiation and to find some sort of way out. And also even the federal member states, because we have now in Somalia, we have the central government and we have other 4 presidents of different regions. They also, between them, they need to have a consensus and stop this political fighting to reach stability and to have an option forward, because otherwise it will be just going around in circles and stability will not come.
Exactly. Thank you, Sir Boggs. Now, Mohameddeq, if you can, I really appreciate in less than a minute. I know it's a very difficult question, but what will it take to bring about lasting peace in Somalia?
Can you repeat your question? I couldn't hear well.
What will it take to bring about lasting peace in Somalia? And if you can, please, I would appreciate if you can answer that question in less than a minute.
I think Somalia can take a peace started on the grassroots, because in my book I already explained why Somalia does not get the right direction. I highlighted that the best way Somalia can have a best peace when Somalia, all the elders Somalia are invited to Mogadishu and give them as a training, and the government of Somalia not to intervene them, and so they have to have a security, because each and every client member, if he did not protect it, he cannot do anything. So I may believe if Somalia government invited all the clan elders in Somalia and give them how they can have a conflict resolution, and then they have to travel entire Somalia, and each and every village they have to visit. They have to call all the community and they have to say, we are united. We have to forget what happened to us. We have to start now peace. Somalia are united. So I think that is the best way Somalia can have peace. Is less.
I believe we have a consensus between you and Sir Boggs. There's definitely no way you could shoot your way out of this conflict in Somalia. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Sir Boggs, Emil, Kovacs, Mohameddeq Ali Abdi, and Mustafa Haji Abdinur, who joined us earlier. Thank you very much for your insights and contributions to the program. Now, the war with Al-Shabaab has dragged on for more than a decade. Little suggests that the militants can be defeated militarily, and it's time to start exploring whether another approach can bring peace. President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed's government should take the bold step of testing whether political engagement with Al-Shabaab can serve as a complement to military operations and other policies that seek to weaken the group. That's how much we could take on today's Secure the Continent. Thanks for being a part of the broadcast. I'm Gbenga Aborowa. See you next time and Secure the Continent. Bye-bye.